Hello, this is AC, and this is my film analysis for Philosophy 350, War and Terror. I've chosen to critique an episode from the HBO series Generation Kill, episode 3, Screwby. The episode itself is about an hour long and directed by Susanna White. Uh, Now, I tried to find a way to put clips in my video, but due to HBO's copyright and blocks, I was unable to do so. So I have a list of YouTube clips that I'll be attaching to this via Word document, along with a list of sources. So I wanted to start talking first off about the show itself and how it relates to simulation and Jean Baudrillard's, I'm going to butcher that name, Baudrillard's simulation and simulacrum, because the show itself was made in 2008, and it follows the 2003 invasion of Iraq through the eyes of the 1st Recon Battalion of Marines. And it was written, there was a reporter embedded with those Marines, and it was written in 3 articles in the Rolling Stone first. Then that was turned into a book, and then that was turned into an HBO miniseries. So already we have a level 4 simulacrum of the reality of the Iraq War, because we had the actual things that the journalist saw, which only he can know. Then we have the reaccounting through the articles within Rolling Stone, which is the first image, and then the second image of the book, and then the third image of the actors now recreating the fighting, and then the tanks and the Humvees and everything, and then us watching it through that is the fourth. So we've gone from actual reality of the invasion into actors playing around in Hollywood or wherever they are. So that's your first bit of understanding of the reality. There's a clip I'd like to ask you to watch. The first clip in which Lieutenant Flick talks to the reporter, and he talks to the reporter about the relative safety of the reporter in a firefight. He's hiding. The reporter, Evan White, is his name. And he's hiding behind a tire while the guns are going off. And Lieutenant Flick comes up to talk to him about, are you safe behind the tire? Are you safe in front of the tire? Et cetera, et cetera. And it reminded me a lot of Baudrillard's analysis of Disney, and how where we place ourselves to get in and out of reality is interesting, and can affect how we view the world and what we choose to see or not choose to see. In addition, throughout this miniseries, and particularly this episode, the Marines keep an ongoing critique of their own war, about what the cause of war is, about what they're doing there, about their relative safety, like in this clip. And that also plays in to Baudrillard's just over talking and over analyzing and overplaying everything, that we do it to ourselves. It happens to the Marines themselves, and then within the show, the over analyzing of everything. So that's our first bit. And then I'd like to read a clip from Derain, and well, first let me give you an overview quickly of what happens during this episode. As I said, it's about an hour long. And it follows these Marines. It's the third episode, Screwby, which means it's kind of a both the positive and negative phrase. It can be used kind of like this sucks or this is great. And in this episode, there are a few different things that happen. There's a hamlet that gets bombed. There are friendly fire, blue on blue fire, which is something Derain picks up on in his writings. There's also simulation and war as a game, which I'm about to talk about with Derain. and then a variety of terrorism and horrorism, which we'll get into as well. And then, of course, the over-analyzing of everything, which I'm doing right now, over-talking about it to make it even less of a reality. So get back to Derain, and I wanted to talk about virtuous war and war as a game, and how those two things go hand in hand. Throughout this episode, throughout this miniseries, the translator that is with the Marines talks about how the Iraqis are so happy to be liberated, and that's pretty much all he'll say whenever any Iraqi talks to a Marine, which first off plays on a culture myth that the Iraqis wanted to be liberated. I think the director, Susanna White, is playing with that and making her U.S. audience think. But then on top of it, the idea that these Marines are there to do that and that it's a virtuous war, we're liberating them. And then with war as a game, I wanted to read a quote from page 41 from Derain. From the First to the Second Gulf War, from Botswana to Kosovo, and from Afghanistan to Iraq, virtuous war has taken on the properties of a game, with high production values, mythic narratives, easy victories, and few bodies. From the decision to deploy troops to the daily order of battle, from the highest reaches of policymaking to the lowest level of field tactics and logistic, war games, computer simulations, and command post exercises make war into a game. Now, I wanted to bring this up because the second clip I wanted to show you is the invasion of the airfield, which is the main event of this episode. Again, it's an HBO episode, so it's made for entertainment. HBO is known for its blood, sex, and money, or blood, sex, and violence, really. So this clip shows the invasion of an airfield, and it's an interesting clip because these Marines psych themselves up to go take this airfield, which they're not even supposed to be taking, but they force themselves to. And then by the time they invade, the Republic Guard that is supposed to be there is left. So this whole entire war game plays out, and within the clip, it's the Humvees are raging and they're blasting themselves into the battle very fast, but also very slow, which is kind of the Virilio speed of time within war film. And then they get over the ridge and there's no one there. So the simulation, the physical simulation of game, of knowing people are coming and then knowing the outcome, so just leaving before it happens. And then on top of that, the scene before the blue on blue fire happens, where the Marines get shot out by reservists. And so it's just a very interesting way of bringing Derain into the mix as well. The last clip I wanted to show you has to do at the very end of the episode. The Marines had their ROEs changed, rules of engagement changed in the middle of the episode, from only hostiles, people with weapons, to everybody is considered hostile right before they invade this airstrip. And in the middle of that, there's a Marine that shoots camels, and we find out later, a child. And this last clip, I think, shows both horrorism, Cavariero's horrorism, and the drone strikes papers. And this is because the change in the order and the change of command, from only hostiles are hostile to everybody is considered hostile, and how that chain of command went down, as well as the dehumanization of the Iraqi civilians. At one point during the episode, they talk about whether or not it's better to shoot or worse to shoot a camel or a person, and they side with the camel, that it's worse to shoot a camel. And then at the very end of this episode, they find out they've shot a child. And this clip, it talks with, it shows the Marines who have just taken the child to their commanding officer, the Godfather. You'll know him because he has a very deep, scratchy voice. and they are trying to get him to medevac the child because they know it's their fault. They know it's their Marine's fault. And the Godfather just explains and explains and explains why he can't medevac this child, why he can't casevac him. And the Marines just stand there. They hear him, they listen to him, but they don't answer. And they all just kind of present a united front of silence. And I think this speaks to Cavarero's horrorism and the use of words, and how sometimes overusing words can create a disconnection. And that's what the Godfather is trying to do there. That's what that scene is, where the Godfather just continues to talk about it, and the Marines are just standing there saying, "No, we need this is horror. We need to do something." So I have listed the three clips in a Word document. Some of them, particularly the one where called Lieutenant Flick talks to the reporter, is only about the first 40 seconds. The others are full clips. And then in addition, I don't have a clip for this, but I want to talk a little bit about Weber and U.S. culture myths within Generation Kill and within this episode, and how that relates to IR theory. First off, again, the liberation of Iraq and how we were there to liberate Iraq, but also the tie it back to the Humvees invading the airstrip, and just the myth that the U.S. is always the cavalry and the U.S. is always the strongest military. And then on top of that, just I think a culture myth that Susanna White, the director of the show, is playing with here, is the idea that Marines kill people and that's their job and there are no consequences, no matter if they're civilian or hostile. That's something that gets played around with a lot in this episode, and how that plays out for the U.S. society and this understanding and this regurgitating into society that Marines kill, but then also within this TV show showing that Marines are human, I think kind of pokes holes in the theories, but also proves the theory. It's a very interesting dynamic there. So yes, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I highly recommend this mini-series. It's a 7-part mini-series. Each episode is about an hour long. Thank you very much. How do I stop it?